Hi guys. Story number 3. Are you liking the time change? It is 5:02 and that's what it looks like outside. All right. Let's talk about how I became a dog groomer. What made me become a dog groomer? A dog groomer. Okay. So, on my 10th birthday, my parents, the awesomeness that they are, I've told you already over and over, that they bought me a Cocker Spaniel puppy. And I was thrilled. We named her Tigger. And we had a cat. And the cat's name was Tiger. So, hey. You guys want to say hi? Just let me stick your head in here. Real slowly. Do it real slowly. He was just outside putting up Christmas lights for me. Why am I? All of a sudden I'm coughing. I must be allergic to you.
Yeah, that's the theory.
I've been telling him to go take a shower. His game comes on in 56 minutes. And he's still here.
Oops.
Go. Do what you're told.
I will not.
I know you will not. I know. So, I'm telling the story. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Love you.
Love you too. So, for my 10th birthday, my parents gave me this Cocker Spaniel. I was 10. I did not know how to take care of a dog. There was no... Well, he's back.
I'm back. I want to ask my beautiful bride, me, if she wants a fire tonight.
No, it was hot today.
Do you want a hot tub?
No, I already did my hair.
It looks so much more beautiful in the hot tub.
No, get out of here. You don't have time before your game anyway, so. So anyway, it's almost 3 minutes in and I haven't even told you, go away. So my parents bought me this Cocker Spaniel puppy. It was great. I loved it. It was wonderful. Until its hair started getting outrageously long and outrageously tangled and matted. I don't think at that time my parents even knew there was such thing as a dog groomer. Like, they probably just didn't even know that existed. I was supposed to maintain this dog, and I was 10, and I didn't have the internet to look up how to take care of it. I don't know how long I had the dog before this happened. Probably a couple years. But one day they came home. They had gone to the flea market. And they came home and they brought some people with them. People that were there to take my dog. So, I, of course, was devastated and angry and confused. And, of course, there was lots of crying and pleading. But they took the dog. And I went out in the backyard. I was crying and carrying on. I fell down to my knees. And I don't know, it felt like a Scarlett O'Hara moment. Where I was like, Lord, I'm going to show them. I'm going to show them I can take care of a dog. I'm going to figure this out. So I got married the first time. Yes, the first time when I was 17 years old. And I really wanted another Cocker Spaniel. So I bought a red and white Cocker Spaniel. Her name was Tiffany. And I decided I wanted to show her at the dog shows. Now, Tiffany wasn't show quality. I'm so sorry. I usually don't do these videos when it's dark out. I usually do them right after church. And yesterday, right after church, we started doing the outdoor Christmas lights and decorating. So, anyway. So, they took my dog. I had my Scarlett O'Hara moment. And life went on. When I got married, I purchased this Cocker Spaniel named Tiffany. I wanted to show her, and I did. I went to what's called fun matches, which are different than full-on dog shows. And we had fun. I learned a lot about how to show a dog, even though I didn't have a show quality dog, but I had fun. So, I'm so sorry I keep coughing. Maybe I should stop. Let me go get something hot to drink. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. I have hot apple cider. Look at my pretty mug. Yeah, our new church gave us these. See how it has mountains on it? So cool. Okay. So, I was showing Tiffany, and, you know, it was fun and everything, but I had learned that Tiffany was not show quality and that I could never really win a real show with her. So I set my sights on getting a good quality Cocker Spaniel. So there was a lady. Her name was Laurel Summers. And she's a very kind lady. And I approached her about buying a dog from her. And I told her I couldn't really afford to spend a lot of money on a dog. Because at that time, you know, $500 for a dog was really expensive. I mean, now, like Shandy, I think I paid $3,000 for her. But anyway, let me take a sip. Anyway, so this lady had this litter of puppies, and they came from the Dream Ridge line, which was like the primo Cocker Spaniel line at that time. And I really wanted one of the puppies. So she said, okay, if you will come and help me maintain the dogs, bathing, drying, brushing, all of that stuff. I honestly forget how often it was, if it was once a week or if it was every 2 weeks that she wanted me to come. And when I had worked enough to pay for the dog, I could take the dog. So I started doing that. And I got sick. My appendix ruptured, which I told you was a whole nother story we're going to have. But my appendix ruptured. I was in the hospital for 6 weeks. I was 19 years old at the time. And I couldn't keep paying. I mean, I couldn't keep working to pay off the dog. So I had my husband call Laurel and tell her what had happened, and would she hold the dog for me until I could get back to trading work for the purchase price. Anyway, he left her a voicemail, and I was in the hospital, and not he, one day I'm in the hospital, and these balloons start coming into the room, and behind the balloons was a person dressed in a black and white clown suit and had a huge bouquet of black and white balloons into my hospital room. And of course, I was very surprised and very excited. Who could have sent me this? And why are they sending me black and white balloons with a black and white clown? I didn't understand. And the clown handed me a letter. I opened it up and read it. And it said, and I don't remember verbatim, but I remember pretty close. It said, I've been paid in full, and I will be waiting for you when you get out of the hospital and you're able to take care of me. So, because I had gotten so sick, because I literally almost died, she decided to just let me have him for the work I had done. And it was amazing. It was amazing. I was so excited. So while I'm in the hospital, I have these two other dogs. I still had Tiffany, and there was another dog. I can't remember which dog it was. But my mom said, she came in one day to see me at the hospital, and she said, I want you to know I gave the dogs a bath. I was like, what? My mom does not bathe dogs. I was like, where? She's like, in the shower. I put them in the shower and gave them a bath. Well, Cocker Spaniel's hair is very long, and my dog's hair was very long. And you don't bathe them if they haven't been brushed and combed before they're bathed. So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my mother bathed my dogs. I couldn't imagine that. And then I thought, oh no, they are going to be so matted, they're going to have to be shaved. Well, they definitely needed to be shaved. I think at one point she asked them if she could bring the dogs to the hospital and if they could wheel me outside. And they said yes. So they were a disaster. So she said, well, your aunt sent money for me to buy you flowers. Do you want me to use it and take them to the dog groomer? Because at that point we knew what dog groomers were, because I was old enough and mature enough to research how to take care of a Cocker Spaniel. So I said, yes, please. So she took the money from my aunt Carrie, and she got the dog shaved. It was going to be necessary anyway. For as long as I was in the hospital, they would have been a disaster anyway. But I've always been shocked that my mom gave them a bath. Anyway, so after I was out of the hospital and I was back on my feet and back in, the dogs and everything, I was able to get my black and white Cocker Spaniel, which his name was Rhett. Rhett, like Scarlett O'Hara's Rhett Butler. Anyway, there were people that were professional dog handlers that approached me wanting to show him because he was out of their champion dog. So the more champion puppies they could make from their dog, the better it is for them. Because I couldn't afford it. I mean, I was 19 years old. So they showed him and made him a champion. That was great. So let's skip over the rest of that story because there's a lot of story about him too. I had to learn to groom dogs. Well, I had to learn to groom my dogs because I couldn't afford to pay a dog groomer. So I bought a pair of clippers and such. And I learned how to groom them from the other show people. So I was living in my parents' rent house with my husband, and we shared the house with my sister. So I asked my dad, I said, could you put in like a bathtub in the garage where I could bathe the dogs? And he was like, I could build you a little room. And that way you could put a heater in there when it's cold, and we could put an air conditioner unit in there when it's hot. And you distract me.
I'm so sorry.
What can I do for you?
Nothing really. I just want to tell you I love you.
Such a dork. He's a loving dork. So my entrepreneurial brain said, wow, I'm learning how to groom dogs. I had a book. I'm learning how to groom dogs. Maybe I should ask the neighbors if they want me to groom their dogs. And like, I'll charge them $10 and I'll groom their dog. So, gosh, when was this? 1982. So I started grooming some of the neighbors' dogs, making a little bit of extra cash. And one day my phone rang, and it was a lady named Linda Rambo. And Linda Rambo owned a dog grooming shop, probably about 4 or 5 miles from my house. And she said, hey, I heard that you're doing dog grooming out of your house. And I thought, uh-oh, am I going to be in trouble? I said, yes. And she said, well, I have a dog grooming shop and I need help. Would you like to come and work for me? And I said, well, I don't know how to do all the breeds. I'm learning from a book. She goes, I'll teach you. So I went and met her, and I took pictures of my show dogs, and I thought, oh, I'm so proud. She's going to be so impressed. And she was like, ew, Cocker Spaniels? You have Cocker Spaniels. She was not impressed, and I was quite disappointed. But she hired me, and she finished teaching me. And I will tell you, there are some people I believe are just born to be dog groomers. I was not one of those people. While I was learning, there were days I would cry. And Linda Rambo would tell me, you can cry for 5 minutes, and then you need to finish that dog. And so I did. Put my head down on my table and I cried because it was hard. It was hard. It looked easy, but it wasn't easy. Anyway, I eventually bought that grooming salon from her, little tiny grooming salon, probably the size of just the grooming room in the current salon that I own. And that had the tubs, the kennels, the table, the front counter, had everything in probably like 450 square feet. But I bought that from her for $10,000. And I borrowed money to do that. I asked my dad for help. And I don't know what was going on with them at the time, but he said, I'm going to ask your grandmother. So my grandmother loaned me the $10,000, and I bought the shop, and we did fantastic. Fantastic. I don't know how long I owned it. Maybe 3 or 4 years. There's a lot of stuff that went on behind the scenes, but I made a lot of friends. I ended up living with one of my employees. We shared an apartment um, for about a year. Probably 4 years I owned that place. And it did really well, and I made good money, and I had a nice car, and I had a nice apartment, and everything was great. And that is the story of how I got into dog grooming. Um, I'll tell you, that was not the first shop, or that was not the last shop that I owned. Another shop came available, and I bought another shop while I owned, was it while I owned that one? I don't remember if it was while I owned that one or while I owned another one. Wow. I'm going to be 62. And it feels like sometimes things just got purged somewhere. But I owned that shop. I sold that shop and I moved to Key West, Florida. I ended up back and I opened another shop in the same city, San Antonio, called Paw Paw Patch. And that shop, there were days where we would do 30, 40, sometimes 50 dogs a day in that place. And then I moved to, I forgot. While I had that place, I bought another place, and that didn't work out because it was too far. So I sold that one. And then there was another shop for sale, so I bought that shop. And I buy them really cheap because they're shops that have failed. And then I turn them around and sell them. And each time I at least doubled my money. Then I moved to Colorado. And I went to work for a corporation here as their head marketing for dog grooming person. While I was doing that, I got asked by a major shampoo company to rep for them at grooming conventions. So I did that for about 4 years, and I would do about 8 shows a year. That was a lot of fun. At that point in time, I started a dog jewelry business. Oh yes, dog jewelry. And so when Savannah was a teenager, she would go to the conventions with me. The company I worked for would pay for all of my expenses, so I would pay for Savannah, and we would have a booth there selling the dog jewelry. Oh my gosh, I had totally forgotten about that. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. She traveled with me. We'd, hoteled with me. She'd go to at night, they called them the carnies, the carnival people, all the people that had booths, we would get together. Certain ones would get together because there were big shows. Sometimes there was 200, 300 vendors. So groups of people would go to dinner together, and it was a lot of fun. And then there was a situation that happened at that company, and I had to leave. I had a contract. They changed my pay anyway, and I split the scene. And I went and bought a shop from a gal who was getting ready to close it down. I probably should have waited till she just closed it down, and then I could go open it back up, but I wanted all the stuff inside. So I paid a really low price. I remember I called my mom, and I said, Mom, I have this opportunity. I don't have the money. Is there any way you can loan me $25,000? And she took a deep breath, and she said, do I have to go to the bank today, or can I go tomorrow? That was my mom. It was funny because I had been daddy's girl, and my dad always, helped me when I needed it or made sure I got the help I needed. And, part of me thought, oh, when my dad's gone, those days are over. But my mom just stepped right into his shoes, and she supported me and helped me in every way. So I bought that shop, which is the current shop that I have, but in the old location. And I paid her back. I paid my grandma back. And it was good. It was good. And now when I went to move the shop to the new location, I didn't have anybody to ask for help. So I went to the bank and I got a loan, and now I'm paying that loan back. So yeah, that's how I became a dog groomer. And I love it. And here's the great thing. A lot of people don't make it to 44 years in this industry because most people stand up to groom. And I learned to groom sitting down. So although it's not a healthy thing, think about how many people sit to do their job. So I learned to groom sitting, and that was great because it saved my back. But my hands are an issue. So you could see how big this hand is, and then you could see this hand. If you haven't been around for a while, because some of you know all about this, I had a hand surgery, and my scar is about that big. And they took out that bone, this bone right here. Took that out. Or did they take this bone out? I don't know. They took a bone out. Took a bone out. And then they took tendon from my arm and they looped it through, and that's how I work my thumb. But you could see the difference in the two hands because that bone is gone. This hand looks weird. But it feels great. Doesn't hurt anymore. And I need to have that surgery on this hand too. I get cortisone shots right here. And it is probably one of the most painful things. But I go and I get the shots, and I know in 48 hours, I'm not going to be in pain anymore. And that's what the cortisone shot does. But eventually, that will stop working. So, that's that. All right. I enjoy telling these stories. I have so much fun. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.